story this hour. Russia has defied calls to probe the alleged poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. The actions of the Kremlin are contrasting and confusing at the same time. It was Russia that wanted to investigate possible foreign links to the poisoning earlier, and now it has pulled back. So what is Russia's endgame and why the sudden postponement? Navalny is in a coma in a German hospital. The Kremlin said that the German clinic had not conclusively identified the substance behind Navalny's illness. It added that it was unclear why the German doctors were rushing to use the word poisoning.
These accusations absolutely cannot be true and are rather an empty noise. We do not intend to take them seriously. If a substance is found and if it is determined that it is poisoning, then there will of course be a reason for an investigation.
On the other hand, German doctors have confirmed that the Putin critic was poisoned, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel has called on Russia to probe the suspected poisoning. Navalny, a politician and corruption investigator, is one of Putin's fiercest critics. His allies are demanding an investigation into whether Putin was involved in the process of deliberately poisoning Navalny. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that he was deeply concerned by the alleged reports of poisoning. He also pushed European Union-led investigation into the circumstances of his illness. Now, this was the first formal statement issued by Pompeo. Meanwhile, the US ambassador to Moscow urged Russia to immediately launch an investigation into the alleged poisoning. John Sullivan said the Russian authorities should open an immediate, comprehensive and transparent investigation that holds the parties behind this act responsible. Now, let's give you what happened earlier. Navalny fell ill on a flight back to Moscow from Siberia on Thursday and was taken to a hospital in Siberia. He was then transferred to a Berlin hospital where doctors said that they have found indications of cholinesterase inhibitors, which are in his system. Now, Navalny had a long-time opponent of Russian President Vladimir Putin and has been a thorn in the Kremlin's side for more than a decade. Now, he has been repeatedly detained for organizing public meetings and rallies against the president and has also been sued over his investigations into corruption cases. Now, he was barred from running in a presidential election in 2018. Now, our correspondent Lucy Taylor is joining us live from Moscow for more on this. Good afternoon to you, Lucy. Now, France has called for an investigation into the poisoning allegations of Navalny, and they have said that those responsible must be brought to justice.
Yes, Alexei Navalny's supporters say that only President Vladimir Putin can be behind, can have sanctioned the poisoning of Alexei Navalny. But the Kremlin dismisses that accusation roundly. It says that any suggestion of that is hot air, and there's no need for an investigation at this stage because they say it hasn't yet been conclusively proven that there was a poisoning. That's very different, though, from what we're hearing from Germany, which where the hospital is now treating Alexei Navalny. Doctors there say that their tests do show indications of poison in his system. They talk about these cholinesterase inhibitors, which are a group of substances which inhibit the nervous system. They say that could cause long-term damage, and it's very much been taken by the German government and others in Europe and now the US that is a sign that there was an attack here, that it's very likely to be a poisoning attack rather than a spontaneous illness on the part of Alexei Navalny. But the Russian position is that that hasn't yet been proven. We've also heard from the Russian Foreign Ministry, who said that they find it deeply offensive, any accusations of a cover-up by the doctors in the city of Omsk, where Alexei Navalny was first treated in Russia. They say that those doctors worked hard to save Navalny's life, and they asked who would benefit from Alexei Navalny being attacked in this way, and they say that the Russian leadership would not benefit, although it's difficult to see who else at this point may want to see him ill if this is indeed a poisoning. And it does seem to follow the pattern of other Kremlin critics who have been made ill or killed in suspicious ways in the past. So that's what these European and US leaders are calling for, and they are beginning to join together to call for a full and transparent investigation.
Right, Lucy, this is, the German doctors have confirmed the poisoning allegations, and the actions of the Kremlin are somewhat contradictory and contrasting, where it was Russia who in fact wanted the investigation into possible foreign links into the poisoning first, and now it seems to have pulled back.
Well, it's different branches of the Russian state that are leading these things. The foreign investigation is being led by the State Duma, the lower house of Parliament Security Committee, which is looking into whether there are any foreign links in relation to Alexei Navalny's poisoning. I'm not sure that there's any evidence of that at this point, but it's a common refrain that Russia uses against Navalny and his supporters, that they're in some way sponsored by the foreign countries, and I think attempting to bring in suggestions of foreign interference in this case is another part of that. On the other hand, the Kremlin is saying that there's no need for an internal investigation about within Russia, because they don't believe at this point that there was a poisoning at all. They're saying that they believe it could just be a spontaneous illness, and there's not conclusive proof yet that Navalny was himself poisoned. You might ask, where are the police in all of this? Navalny's supporters say that they filed a report shortly after Navalny became ill last week in the city of Tomsk, which was where they believe he ingested this poison. They say that the only thing he'd eaten or drunk that morning was a cup of tea in an airport cafe before boarding a flight out of Siberia. They say they filed a report with the police, but the deadline has passed for a case to be initiated, and one hasn't been started, although it is reported that the head of Navalny's organisation in that city has been called in to the police headquarters in the city to be spoken to be interviewed but not interrogated about the circumstances of this illness. So it doesn't seem that there is a particular police investigation being undertaken at the moment. The Kremlin, though, does say that if there is conclusive proof of poisoning, once the German doctors have finished their investigations, then they would at that point see the need for an investigation.